My boyfriend, Alan, M34, and I, F32, have been together for 5 years. Marriage was a topic we openly discussed from the very beginning of our relationship. We were very upfront with each other, laying all our cards on the table, including our deal breakers and expectations for the future. We reached an agreement to move in together with the explicit condition that we would get engaged beforehand. Alan specifically told me he would propose before the end of that year. My family was strongly against this plan. They voiced their concerns, saying that moving in together without the commitment of a ring was a significant risk for me. Despite their warnings, I chose to believe Alan's promise and we moved in together. Now, over 2 years have passed since we moved in. There has been no engagement, no proposal, and there is no ring. In the intervening time, I have consistently held up my end of the partnership. When Alan lost his job, I took on extra work and significantly increased my hours to ensure all our bills were covered. When he found a new job, I was there to coach him through the initial challenges he faced with his new boss. His family has a long history of internal conflicts and a tendency to create difficult situations for themselves. I have done my best to offer support and help him navigate their issues without being overly judgmental, understanding that their problems ultimately affect him as well. I have brought up the topic of our engagement so many times that I now feel like I am begging for something that was once promised. His responses have consistently been vague. He often asks to postpone our conversations, saying he is tired or that wedding plans would be exhausting to discuss at that moment. I have been direct, explicitly asking him if he has changed his mind about marriage. I need to know where I stand because he repeatedly assured me otherwise before we decided to rent a place together, and the foundation of that decision was his promise. We attempted to have this conversation again recently, and he dismissed it lightly, as if it were not a serious matter. Days later, I tried again, and he looked visibly annoyed simply because I was asking for a clear and honest answer. He has postponed the proposal indefinitely without providing any concrete reason. What is particularly upsetting is that he seemed much more open to the idea of marriage back when he felt vulnerable or perhaps more dependent on me. I have made it clear to him that I do not want to be with a man who only mentions marriage out of a sense of survival or obligation. A few weeks ago, I broached the subject again because I could no longer cope with the monosyllabic answers, the constant changing of the subject, and the general state of limbo I was in. He snapped at me, saying that a relationship is about much more than just a wedding, and that I was pressuring him. Swallowing my pride, I reminded him that I loved him deeply and that spending the rest of our My husband and I have been together for about 4 years, and we've lived together with his 2 sons, who are now 12 and 14, for the past 2.5 years. His boys are from his previous marriage. They're generally good kids, but as anyone who knows teenage boys can attest, they are energetic, prone to arguments, make messes, and aren't always the best at listening. It's just the stage they're at. I don't have any biological children of my own. Last summer, we made a significant move, relocating about 60 miles from our previous home. This move was primarily because the boy's biological mother remarried someone who lived in a different part of the state. To minimize the burden of a long commute on the kids, we decided as a family to move closer to their mom's new location. My husband still commutes back to our old area for work, while I have the flexibility of working from home full-time now. We share 50-50 custody of his sons. During the school year, we never have the boys on Monday or Tuesday nights. My husband enjoys playing in low-stakes bar poker games, and he usually does this on those 2 nights. The venue where he plays is quite a long drive, so he typically stays overnight with friends near our old house and doesn't come home until the next day. It's not my ideal arrangement, but I have consciously tried to ensure he feels like he has the freedom to enjoy his hobbies, especially since he felt restricted in his first marriage. However, a significant issue has arisen concerning our summer custody schedule. During the summer, our custody arrangement switches to a 1 week on, 1 week off schedule. Recently, it came up in conversation that my husband fully intended to continue playing his poker game on Tuesday nights throughout the summer and planned to stay with his friends overnight, just as he does during the school year. It has always been our clear understanding and agreement that my husband would be home any night that we have his boys staying with us. When I brought up my discomfort with him being away on a Tuesday night during our week with the kids, he told me he didn't think it was a big deal for him to be gone 1 night a week and that he expected me to handle everything on those nights. I am deeply uncomfortable being the only adult in the house with his sons overnight. They make me feel anxious, especially their tendency to get into arguments and even physical fights. I also don't believe it's my primary responsibility or place as their step-parent to be the sole disciplinarian, especially when things escalate physically. If they were quieter, more self-sufficient kids, I might feel differently, but with teenage boys, there's always a potential for conflict, and I have no desire to be solely in charge of managing those situations. Beyond this, I already carry a significant portion of the parental responsibilities. I am the default parent for their laundry, school pickups and drop-offs during the school year, scheduling.
Perhaps I'm about to sound like an absolute jerk, and I'm here, ready to face that judgment if it's warranted. To understand where I'm coming from, you need a bit of history. My dad passed away when I was just 6 years old, leaving it just me and my mom for a few years before she met Dan. Dan seemed like a decent guy, and they got married a little over a year after they started dating. I was 11 at the time. Just a few months after my mom and Dan tied the knot, Dan's ex-wife announced she wanted to move with their daughter to another state. Instead of putting their foot down and fighting this in court, Dan and my mom made a decision that irrevocably altered my childhood. They decided we would move as well, to follow Dan's daughter. That decision led to us moving an astounding 8 times in the span of just 5 years, also Dan could remain geographically close to his daughter. He never contested his ex's plans in court, instead, he and my mom uprooted me every single time. To say I was resentful would be a massive understatement. I was constantly being pulled away from the rest of my family, my friends, my school, everything familiar and stable. We were perpetually chasing after a stepsister who, frankly, I didn't really care if I ever saw again. I understood that my mom cared about Dan, and Dan cared about his daughter, and they were married, making decisions as a family unit. But as a child and teenager, I felt completely unsettled, never knowing how long we'd stay in one place. What made it even worse was that Dan even admitted his ex-wife didn't actually want us nearby and would likely keep moving when she could, essentially playing a game of cat and mouse with our lives. Then, everything shifted dramatically. My stepsister and her mother were in a serious accident. While her mother recovered relatively well, my stepsister suffered life-altering injuries that left her severely disabled, requiring round-the-clock care. Dan and my mom finally put down roots in the last location we moved to and ultimately gained custody of my stepsister. They have since dedicated their lives to caring for her. I, however, moved out as soon as I turned 18. This became a significant point of contention between me and Dan. He had apparently harbored an expectation that I would be there for his daughter, contributing to her care and perhaps even taking over entirely one day. I made it unequivocally clear to him that that was never going to happen. This decision also caused a rift between my mom and me. She was saddened by my physical distance and we argued frequently about my choice to leave and my continued resentment towards their decisions to move so much when I was younger. Her argument was always about wanting to keep the family together, while I countered that she had torn me away from my family and robbed me of any sense of stability during my formative years. Fast forward to the present. I started dating my fiancé a decade ago, and we got